Hi, Steve. Thanks for joining us. We wanted to take a moment and given all of the conversations that we're having with a lot of colleagues, portfolio managers across the spectrum, we thought it would be valuable to kind of lay out what Willow Oak is about, and then get into some of the specifics on Willow Oak's fund management services offering. So to start, let's give a little bit of the big picture. Can you give us some background on Willow Oak and why we work with the managers that we work with?
Sure. Well, thank you, Jessica. So Willow Oak Asset Management provides operational services to affiliated third-party independent firms. Most of also have private funds associated with them. And the background was about 4 years ago now, we partnered with Alluvial Capital and provided seed capital to David Waters there. And the next year, we launched a fund with Keith Smith and Bonhoeffer Fund, and then over the next few years, brought on several other firms as well. And each of those startup and emerging funds requires quite a bit of operational assistance. You have to realize when you're starting a fund, you're actually starting a company as well. It's not just managing a portfolio. You have all of these other logistical items, operations, compliance, investor relations, back office. You don't always think about this when you're a security analyst and choosing a portfolio. You're not always thinking about the fact that part of your day, sometimes a significant part of your day, is spent on things like interacting with the auditor and setting up wire transfers and handling all of these logistics, making sure you have proper record keeping on things like the PPM and updating the offering documents and having compliance committee meetings and things like that. So anyway, these are the things that that businesses require and that allow for scalability with your fund and firm. And Willow Oak handles all of that and allows the managers to focus on the thing that they want to do the most, the thing that they're best at, highest and best use, which is managing the portfolio.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we emphasize as a real value add to our firm affiliates is that Willow Oak Network. Can you just speak to kind of the associated benefits of being a part of that network, what that looks like?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a great network. It's a great group of people, a lot of like-minded in terms of personality types, and they're giving people who like to share ideas and be helpful to each other. So we have things like learning about different industries, taking a second look at a couple different companies. I don't think we have very much overlap right now in specific holdings, but we certainly have conversations amongst the group about areas to invest in, things that are interesting. It's just a great group of people to make sure that we can stay honest with ourselves. That's a big challenge as a portfolio manager, is to make sure you're not kind of off in your own land and maybe not kind of getting the context of things or not understanding certain areas that you're investing in. And so we use that as a sounding board, which is great. And we also have a great group of advisors, people like Parag Shah and Scott Miller, and we have, Dave Waters is on it as well as a portfolio manager, and Andrew Wynn in London, and we've got two board members that are managers as well, Thomas Brazil and Jeremy Deal. And so we have context throughout the world. Jeremy is in Amsterdam, Thomas and Andrew are in London. We've got people throughout the US. It's not just in New York. In fact, I think I might be the only one in New York, to be honest with you. And so, we get regional context. We have people with different backgrounds that can provide some context and perspective. And each of the managers is always willing to share their experience. And I think a good anecdote most recently was we brought on Sri Viswanathan just a few months ago, and Sri had been running his firm for about a year plus, year and a half, 2 years or so. And he said one of the things that happens is he had left a big institution, and that was his career previous to this, to run his own fund. And then we're in COVID times, and he's there alone, in his office doing his work, and certainly having emails and phone calls and things like that and research with different companies. But it becomes a little bit lonely when you're used to interacting with people on a day-to-day basis in the office. And we've really enjoyed getting to know Sri well as from the portfolio manager side as well. And we've been sharing some ideas and perspectives. And one of the things recently, he found some opportunities in a specific country, and a number of us have been looking at that. And I think it's really enhanced their research capabilities and probably the long-term portfolio performance for all of us to be part of this network.
Absolutely. I've been so impressed by the collegiality amongst the group, which is exciting to see as it continues to grow.
Yeah, that's a requirement. We want to be permanent partners with all of these managers, and so we need to all have respect and want to get along with each other and want to have that interest in having that collegiality and the sharing. And so that's a requirement, I think, with who we partner with. And same thing on the management side, on your side, Jessica, and the team there. We all between the managers and the team, we need to have that, and we do have that. And one other the effect of the network, where I think we might talk about in a minute here, is then there is fundraising potential there. There are opportunities here to market together. When we're talking about institutional investors primarily, there are a number of family offices and others that if they're interested in a specific investment philosophy, they're going to be interested in taking a look at each one of the managers, and they've done that. And I think a number of our managers have the same investor who are in a number of the different ones.
Absolutely. We've seen that. A rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Absolutely. We want the pie to get bigger. There's no, it's not a zero-sum game here.
No, certainly not. So, Steve, you are the president of Willow Oak Asset Management. You are also the portfolio manager, founder of Arquitos Capital. So, as such, can you just kind of speak to why Willow Oak focuses on emerging managers, why that's a sweet spot for us, certainly, as well as our affiliates? And then as, wearing your portfolio manager hat, what are some of the benefits you've felt directly and the maybe pain points that we helped to solve?
The focus on emerging managers is because these are the people who need it the most. And so Willow Oak can provide that infrastructure at an earlier stage than the manager could have taken on themselves, both financially and just capability day to day in terms of the time that they have and the interest and skill set. Historically, if you were going to start a fund, you might team up with an operations person and split ownership or something like that. You have the investing side, you have the operations side. If you don't do that, which most of us haven't, most of us started up here as managers ourselves without the operational support, and we tried to handle that ourselves for a few years as well. And then at some point, even for me, for Arquitos, before I teamed up with Willow Oak, I brought on in-house some staff, and that's a burden. It's a challenge because now all of a sudden you're managing a portfolio and you're managing people, and that brings a whole host of other issues that you have to deal with. And so Willow Oak takes all of that off your plate, and because there are no actual kind of payments, upfront fees, we have fee shares with each of the firms. That allows the affiliated firms to grow, to have that operational infrastructure sooner than they otherwise would have done. We can grow together, and because the Willow Oak team is 4 people or so, sometimes 5 people with different capabilities, as a manager you have access to a wider group of skill sets, essentially, that if you just had hired someone like a COO in-house or something like that. And so the emerging managers need it the most. Willow Oak provides that more broad infrastructure significantly sooner than what the fund could have done by themselves. And quite frankly, in the near to midterm, it's more cost effective for the outside manager. Now, where the benefit for everyone is, we want permanent relationships, right? So we're 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. That's why we want managers who are committed to that, to having the fund over that long-term duration as well, so we can grow together. And that then benefits everyone because the fund can grow sooner. Maybe performance would be better because the manager can focus a little bit more on the portfolio. Maybe fundraising is better early on because they do have that infrastructure that they otherwise would not have had. And then as time goes by, there's financially everyone's going to do well if the manager does well and if Willow Oak continues to do their job also. So from my perspective, from a portfolio manager at Arquitos Capital, every one of those things applies to me as well. You know, the last 3 years or so, as Willow Oak has handled the operations, it has freed me up to not be distracted by some of those, especially the operational logistical items, and it's enhanced things like compliance and other kind of infrastructure items that institutional investors require that previously I just, you know, didn't have. And, you know, I don't think I'm alone in that from the Arquitos side. So it's been a great relationship. I've been very happy with it. And, you know, every one of those elements has kind of enhanced the long-term viability and scalability of our Arquitos Capital, just like I know it has done for the other firms as well. And, you know, the final point, to going back to the network, is it's great to be around these people. You know, it's great to be around the Willow Oak team. It's great to be around the advisors and the other fund managers. And I absolutely have gotten some stock ideas from that. I've absolutely had some risk management discussions that have been beneficial to me with that. Their perspectives have really, it's benefited the portfolio and my investors. And it's also made me a lot happier day to day, just as kind of my day to day work, which the more the manager can feel like they're focused on the things that they enjoy doing, the longer they're going to want to manage the portfolio. And so again, that's going to benefit all of us, not only the manager, but you know, the Willow Oak side as well, for these funds to last 15, 20, 25 years plus. And I think we can do that with most of these funds.
Certainly. Great. Well, you want to switch gears and put me in the hot seat then, and maybe let's get into a couple of the specifics on what fund management services are.
Sure. So the devil's in the details, of course, and you're the expert here. So, you know, for people's knowledge here, Jessica is the liaison for the various firms and funds, and acts primarily as the investor relations person, as well as kind of the team leader for each of these. So, you know, Jess, I guess, why don't you give a brief overview here? How do the fund management services work? And, you know, talk about kind of those, what happens when an outside firm first partners with Willow Oak.
Great, yeah. So first and foremost, the services that we offer: investor relations, marketing, exposure opportunities, taking advantage of all of those opportunities that network effect presents, certainly, compliance, accounting, both at the fund and firm level, and then really importantly, liaisoning with all of the service providers. And we have certainly kind of preferred service providers, but we work with any firm, anybody that is already kind of settled in what their administration looks like. We really tailor the services to whatever they are looking for, which is important. The onboarding process, the first thing that we do is really take some time to evaluate. And from that evaluation process, looking at, again, all of those practices that are already securely in place and looking at how we can enhance those. We develop a really comprehensive business and strategic marketing plan for each of the firms and funds that we work with. And again, looking for opportunities to streamline activities. We, you know, first and foremost, the operation team wants to take the burden and the responsibility of operations off of the portfolio manager's plate. And we have a team that can very, very seamlessly do that in many instances. The importance of the strategic plan is really for long-term accountability, keeping us all on the same page. Again, our focus on logistics and streamlining those activities, that continues. That's an organic process throughout, because as we get further into those relationships, we are constantly identifying new opportunities to improve. And one of the additional network effects is there's no reinventing the wheel. When we're working with managers, there are so many instances where we've experienced kind of being able to leverage an experience with one fund or one firm to another. And it's been great because we have a lot of kind of built-in experience knowledge as a result of the relationships that we have. And finally, I would just talk about, you know, not only from an investment perspective, and that's where the portfolio manager is focused, but we have a long-term focus. We really want to get it right from the beginning, and that's why we put a lot of emphasis on building that foundation, those business practices, a marketing plan that reflects the activities of, really, quite honestly, a much larger firm. That's what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to act as if we're bigger now, so that it just kind of flows more naturally. We do build for each of our firms, and you identified this being kind of an area where it's often lacking for kind of young firms, emerging managers, the compliance and due diligence area. And this is really all encompassing. It touches on, de-risking the operations. It has its fingers in the importance of, building a very sound fundraising approach, because institutions, investors are looking for that. They want to know, investing is risky. The operations, the business that they're investing in should not be risky. And that's really what we try to accomplish. And then finally, Steve, you talked about it already, that partnership. We feel that's extremely important, because we want to, and we operate your business, the manager's business, like it's our business, because it is. The future success of each of the firms that we work with is our success. So we've got skin in the game, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point too, we should note that the portfolio manager has absolute 100% discretion over the
Yes.
portfolio and their investing. So Willow Oak is not involved in any way that other than ensuring that they're doing what they say they're doing through their marketing documents and offering documents and things like that. And that's the reason for the compliance committee and those types of things. But we're not involved. Willow Oak is not involved in any of those investment decisions. That's completely the role of the manager. That's how it should be. And that's exactly how we set it up from the perspective from my perspective as a manager as well. Let's talk about some of the benefits. Why don't we go on to that? And we've already discussed the overarching at the higher level, but day to day, what are some of the benefits Willow provides?
Sure. Time savings. I mean, right out of the gate, the time savings that our managers experience, because we're taking all of those operational burdens off of their plate. Less distractions for the manager. They want to focus on the portfolio, rightfully so, and that's a benefit for their investors. So this is one of those benefits that flow from the manager right through to the investors. No personnel management. All of the personnel is on the Willow Oak side, and so our teams manage those. Now, we're accountable, of course, and we hold ourselves very seriously accountable to the manager themselves, and that again speaks to the importance of those plans we put together. The day-to-day personnel management, that falls entirely on Willow Oak's shoulders. There are cost savings that we've been able to take advantage of on behalf of our firms. Again, I already talked about kind of leveraging those experiences from, what we're experiencing with one firm across others, no reinvention of the wheel. But we also have, vetted relationships with preferred service providers, and we're able to take advantage of some cost savings in that form. And then there are also associations that Willow Oak has with for compliance purposes, memberships in AMA, relationships with Fintrix for the purpose of marketing and exposure to new audiences. Those are relationships that we strike at the Willow Oak level and then leverage across our firms. So each one is getting kind of that those lifts without a price tag, essentially. And finally, we already talked about the de-risked operations. And then part of that is that infrastructure. The association with Willow Oak introduces credible infrastructure to kind of those one-man, two-man shops that institutions, investors are looking for.
Sure. And so when a manager first comes on board, how do you work with them? What is the day-to-day kind of interactions, if any? And, essentially, how do you work with a manager that's affiliated with Willow Oak?
Sure. Our approach is really kind of this trifecta approach. We see a strong business requires strong portfolio management. That's 100%, as you said, on the manager themselves. Then there's a strong operations, that infrastructure. That's 100% on Willow Oak, with accountability to the manager themselves. And then a strong marketing program. And that's a combination of resources between Willow Oak and the manager. One of the things that I like to kind of highlight in our investor relations is our really very deliberate approach to qualifying inquiries that come in. We call this the qualification process. And the firms that we work with, they have a lot of incoming inquiries. And for a busy portfolio manager, those inquiries just sit in an inbox often for however long. Well, for Willow Oak, we get those inquiries within 24, max 48 hours. We're responding. They're getting investors, when the fund is top of mind to them, we're staying top of mind because we're engaging them. So they get a response from me or whoever the team lead, investor relations team member might be, and we're making that connection, and we're working to qualify them. Are they interested in investment? Are they representing a family office? Are they representing an institution? And how then do we build kind of a strategy around continuing that conversation and furthering that engagement? And at its most basic level, we use a weekly meeting structure for each of our managers. And Steve, we meet with you an hour a week. And of course, we're interacting as need outside of that meeting. But that weekly meeting is an opportunity for Willow Oak to present to the manager, these are the things that we're doing on behalf of the firm, the fund, and where do we need to bring the manager in? You know, if I've worked with an investor and we're at a point where it's time to bring the manager in and have that more detailed discussion of the portfolio, that's when we bring them in. So again, all of that is with this idea that preserving their time, keeping the manager focused on the portfolio is going to yield great results for everybody.
Sure, and I can concur from the portfolio manager's perspective, and each of those things really frees up, not only the time, but also the mental energy. You can have confidence that these things are taken care of, and you don't have to worry day to day about, okay, do I have to follow up with a specific investor, or is there something else I need to do from an operational perspective and things like that. And having that kind of freedom and kind of not having the mental distraction is a huge benefit when you're doing research and you're focused in that area. You're not constantly distracted day to day. So thank you, Jessica. I appreciate that. I'll let you close it out here, but it's nice to be able to have the opportunity to share my perspective on the experience with Willow Oak.
Yeah, thanks for that, Steve. I would just close by saying anybody that would be interested in learning more about our fund management services offering should definitely reach out to me at jessica@willowoakfunds.com.